1 million years ago, humans were facing a world full of danger and opportunity. Our ancestors had already ventured out of Africa into Asia and Europe, mastering fire, hunting, scavenging, and foraging in wild, untamed landscapes. But survival wasn't easy. They shared these lands with fierce predators, battling daily for their lives. So, how did they not only survive, but thrive in environments that could be so harsh and brutally unforgiving? And did these ancient hominins communicate with each other, perhaps with some form of language, to accomplish the remarkable feats that shaped their existence? In this video, we'll explore the incredible story of humanity 1 million years ago. Although modern humans wouldn't evolve for another 700,000 years, we can recognize our ancient relatives, not too dissimilar from ourselves, as far back as 1 million years ago. Among them was the remarkable Homo erectus, a highly successful species that were extant from South Africa through Central and Eastern Africa, all the way to the intersection of Europe and Asia in Georgia, and as far east as China. Their ability to spread across such vast regions was largely due to their newly evolved modern, human-like upright gait and long limb proportions, which enabled them to walk long distances efficiently. Additionally, their brains grew significantly around this time, reaching about 1,000 cubic centimeters, almost double the size of their forebears, giving them the cognitive ability to adapt to diverse environments across the globe. Key adaptations included dark skin and hairlessness, which are believed to have facilitated sweating and cooling in hot climates. Genetic analysis indicates that the melanocortin-1 receptor, responsible for dark skin, was highly active around 1.2 million years ago. Combined with their long legs and upright posture, Homo erectus was able to employ a revolutionary hunting strategy, persistence hunting. This method involved chasing prey until it was overheated and exhausted, making it easier to catch. A study simulating persistence hunts in the Kalahari found that Homo erectus could chase prey for over 5 hours without needing to drink, making them formidable predators of their time. In addition to their physical adaptations, Homo erectus also had human-like shoulders that would have allowed them to throw projectile weapons such as rocks with great accuracy, enabling them to kill and bring down prey. Their hands were capable of precision gripping, which enabled them to craft more advanced tools using the Acheulean technology. Unlike the earlier Oldowan tools, Acheulean tools such as hand axes and cleavers were carefully shaped by removing flakes from large stones, like flint or chert. This process required great skill, as toolmakers used both hard and soft hammers, like bone or antler, to create sharp, durable tools. The hand axes were versatile, serving as Stone Age Swiss Army knives for butchering game, skinning animals, digging, and cutting wood or plant material. Homo erectus would have spent countless hours during their lives to make these extremely important tools. On their way from Africa to Europe and Asia, Homo erectus almost certainly traversed the Levantine corridor, a narrow strip of territory between the Mediterranean Sea to the west and the desert to the east that includes present-day Syria, Lebanon, Palestine, and Jordan. Ubadia, now a prehistoric archaeological site some 3 kilometers south of the Sea of Galilee in the Jordan Rift Valley, which Homo erectus reached between 1.2 and 1.6 million years ago, was a way station en route through the Levant, not quite Africa, Europe, or Asia, but something in between. Today, Ubadia is an undulating expanse of dry grasses and thistles stretching into the distance. Far on the horizon, the mountains of Jordan shimmer through the haze. Nearby stand cultivated olive groves and a date palm plantation. But back in the days of Homo erectus, when it was moving out of Africa, Ubadia's panorama would have looked dramatically different. You would have seen a large lake that extends all the way to the Jordanian hills. Hippopotami would have grazed on aquatic plants. The landscape was thickly wooded by wild oak, olive, and pistachio trees. And on the lakeshore, one might have glimpsed some of the modern humans' relatives, a band of Homo erectus, using sharpened stone hand axes to rip up the carcass of a deer or hippo slaughtered by a saber-toothed tiger. Ubadia is one of the earliest known sites outside of Africa settled by Homo erectus. But what exactly pushed or pulled Homo erectus out of Africa is a matter of fierce debate. Was it some innate adaptability, such as social learning, curiosity, a taste for meat, or technological acuity? Did the expansion of grasslands or rapid changes in climate send them on the journey? Was it some combination of these factors? For many years, scholars subscribed to the Savannistan hypothesis to explain the dispersal of hominins out of Africa. This theory suggested that Homo erectus migrated from East Africa about 2 million years ago, following the expansion of savanna habitats into the southern Levant as a result of climate change. According to the hypothesis, Homo erectus likely stayed near water sources, such as lakes and rivers, during their long migration. As scavengers as well as hunters, they would have fed on the remains of animals, particularly those left behind by predators like saber-toothed tigers, whose teeth could not tear all the meat off a carcass. The Savannistan hypothesis essentially portrayed Homo erectus as grassland specialists who trailed the expanding savannas out of Africa. However, discoveries at the site of Ubadia have challenged this view. Far from being a savanna, Ubadia was a woodland teeming with trees. Hundreds of thousands of fossilized animal bones, including those of rhinoceroses, hippopotami, crocodiles, bears, pigs, camels, and saber-toothed tigers, have been excavated from the site. The wear patterns on the molar teeth of the extinct deer, giraffes, horses, and wild cattle suggest these animals were browsing on soft leaves typical of woodland vegetation, not grassland. Other sites, such as Venta Mycena in Spain, occupied between 1.7 and 1.2 million years ago, and Akalakalaki in Georgia, occupied between 980,000 and 780,000 years ago, also featured a variety of ambush predators, like felines, which are associated with forested areas. Meanwhile, evidence shows that Homo erectus was thriving in tropical Southeast Asia and Indonesia between 1.4 and 1.6 million years ago. These findings suggest that Homo erectus was not confined to savannas. They were highly adaptable and could thrive in diverse environments. Their success lay in their ability to be generalists, capable of living in multiple habitats, and in their strong social relationships. For example, a 1.77 million-year-old Homo erectus fossil found at the Munisi site in Georgia shows evidence that the individual had lived without teeth for some time before death. This suggests that others in the group must have cared for him, helping with the labor-intensive tasks of hunting, gathering, and preparing food, which would have been mashed to accommodate his inability to chew. These findings radically reshape our understanding of Homo erectus. They were not passive creatures, simply following environmental changes. Instead, they were active participants in shaping their destiny. The fact that they could choose to live in woodlands or other environments suggests a level of agency and adaptability far more advanced than previously thought. Homo erectus wasn't just reacting to changes in their world. They were driving their own survival, making them a truly evolved and remarkable species. 1.5 million years ago, evidence suggests that humans may have also been starting to use a hunting and gathering food collecting strategy as a response to the increasing dependence on meat. With an emphasis on teamwork, division of labor, and food sharing, hunting and gathering was a dramatically different subsistence strategy from previous modes. Sites outside of Illoret, Kenya, where 97 footprints of 1.5 million years ago were likely left by a group of at least 20 Homo erectus individuals. One of these trackways, based on the size of the footprints, may have been an entirely male group, which could indicate they were some specialized task group, such as a hunting or foraging party, or a border patrol. If correct, this would also indicate sexual division of labor, which distinguishes human societies from those of other great apes and social mammalian carnivores. These ancient humans were definitely capable of using fire 1 million years ago, and they, Homo erectus, are credited as the first human ancestor to have used fire. The earliest claimed fire sites are in Kenya, at Kubifora, 1.5 million years ago, and in South Africa, Wonderwork Cave, 1.7 million years ago. The first firekeepers are thought to have simply transported to caves and maintained naturally occurring fires like lava flows, wildfires, or from lightning strikes, which is a fairly common occurrence in Africa. Maintaining fires would require them to have knowledge of slow-burning materials such as dung. These fires would have been used to cook food, which kills parasites and harmful bacteria and makes it easier to digest. The inhabitants of Zhoukoudian, northern China, were capable of controlling fires as early as 770,000 years ago to stay warm in what may have been a relatively cold climate. Artificial lighting may have led to increased waking hours. Modern humans have about a 16-hour waking period, whereas other apes are generally awake from only sunup to sundown, and these additional hours were probably used for socializing. Because of this, fire usage is probably also linked to the origin of language. Because language does not fossilize, scientists have to rely on purely circumstantial evidence when trying to determine the language and speech capabilities of our ancient ancestors. Homo erectus 1 million years ago were almost certainly communicating in some way. They likely had some form of language based on evidence of their sophisticated culture and technology. For example, at Gesher Banat Yaakov, Homo erectus settlements show planned areas for different activities, like plant processing and communal life. They, of course, controlled fire, and there is also some evidence they may have been able to build seaworthy crafts to reach islands like Wallasey and Crete, which must have required communication for planning and construction. Although this is debated, and it may have been achieved by another hominin or hominins around the same time that I will talk about later. Research shows that the same brain regions involved in tool-making are linked to language. A Canadian university says, based on their skull and neck bones, they were probably capable of making noises considerably more complex than the grunts and screams of modern apes, and that their face muscles were close to ours, so they would have had the same ability for facial gestures. It may be that they possibly used a combination of sign language and simple vocalizations. It can be speculated that common vocal patterns for important words to have, like danger, food, fire, friend, foe, yes, and no, may have been somewhat standardized within a group. Although simple, this may have been the framework that made modern human language what it is today. If ours is the Tesla of language, theirs was the Model T Ford. Another species that lived 1 million years ago and called Europe home between 1.2 and 0.8 million years ago was Homo Antecessor. Over 80 fossils representing at least 6 individuals, including skeletal and cranial remains, have been found at Gran Dolina and Cima del Elefante in Atapuerca, Spain. These early humans were tall, big-brained, and robust, with hollow cheekbones, a projecting nose, and a prominent double brow ridge. These early Europeans likely migrated inland from the Mediterranean coast during warmer interglacial periods, following rivers like the Ebro and vacating the region when colder climates returned. Despite the glacial cycles, the climate they lived in was likely similar to today's, though a bit warmer, with the coldest temperatures averaging 2 degrees Celsius in winter and the hottest around 18 degrees Celsius in summer. Instead of using fire for warmth, Homo Antecessor may have relied on their physiology to withstand the cold, possibly eating a high-protein diet to fuel a heightened metabolism. Although they would have been one of the most intelligent species of their time, Homo Antecessor didn't seem as advanced as later Homo erectus. There's no evidence that they used fire, and they still relied on simple, Oldowan-style tools, known as Mode 1 technology, made from local raw materials. These tools, mainly simple cutting flakes, weren't as sophisticated as those found elsewhere, but they were still effective for butchering prey and cutting meat from carcasses. At Gran Dolina, fossils from 16 animal species were recovered, with about 13% of the remains showing evidence of human modification. Among these were extinct species like the bush-antlered deer, fallow deer, bison, and rhino, as well as more familiar animals like horses, foxes, wolves, and wild boars. Deer were the most common prey, with over 100 specimens found. The Homo Antecessor inhabitants seemed to bring back whole carcasses of smaller animals and only the limbs and skulls of larger prey. This suggests they worked together in hunting parties, sharing their kills with the entire group, a clear sign of social cooperation and division of labor. Less than 5% of the remains showed signs of scavenging by carnivores, and in some cases, tooth marks overlapped with cut marks, suggesting that predators sometimes scavenged what Homo Antecessor left behind. They also hunted Hermann's tortoise, a slow-moving and easily obtainable source of meat. Homo Antecessor lived in a cool, humid montane environment that supported the growth of trees like olive, beech, hazelnut, and chestnut, which they may have used for food. They also seem to have been consuming hackberries, a fruit historically used for medicinal purposes due to its minimal nutritional value. In May 2013, a storm exposed mysterious hollows on a beach in Happisburgh, Norfolk, England. Using pollen in sediment layers, the scientists dated the footprints to between 850,000 and 950,000 years ago. This age means the footprints may have been left by Homo Antecessor, the only early human species known to be present in Europe at that time. By measuring the footprints, the team were able to estimate the height and weight of the individuals who made them. It appears a small group of adults and children, between 90 and 170 centimeters tall, left the trails as they walked along mudflats in the estuary of an early path of the River Thames that flowed into the sea farther north than it did when southeast Britain was joined to the European continent. Archaeologists may have speculated that the group was searching the mudflats for seafood, such as lugworms, shellfish, crabs, and seaweed. It is possible that the group might have lived on an island in the estuary that provided safety from predators and were traveling from their island base to the shore at low tide. These footprints suggest that Homo Antecessor had a much broader range than the fossils found in Spain alone, indicating their population could have been widespread across all of Western Europe. Another species that lived around 1 million years ago, who is not in modern humans' direct lineage, but is still part of the Hominini tribe and worthy of mention, is Paranthropus robustus, sometimes classified as Australopithecus robustus, who lived all over South Africa with fossils found in numerous caves, including over 100 specimens from the limestone cave of Swartkrans. Though not very modern human-like, this hominid played a significant role in the evolutionary landscape of early human ancestors. They lived from roughly 2.2 million years ago to 870,000 years ago. This species had several distinct physical traits that set it apart from other hominins, especially its large, flat molars and thick jaw, adapted for chewing tough, fibrous plant material. Its skull featured a prominent sagittal crest, a ridge of bone along the top of the head that anchored powerful jaw muscles, somewhat comparable to gorillas. They were short and heavily built, with small brains, and therefore would not have been capable of using fire or language. While scientists may not have found any stone tools associated with Paranthropus robustus fossils, experiments and microscopic studies of bone fragments show that these early humans probably used bones as tools to dig in termite mounds. Through repeated use, the ends of these tools became rounded and polished. Termites are rich in protein and would have been a nutritious source of food for Paranthropus. Based on both the skull of Robustus and evidence of tooth-wear patterns, it seems they were most definitely generalist feeders, and that Robustus was an omnivore, subsisting on mainly C4 savanna plants or C3 forest plants, depending on the season. The microwear patterns in Robustus suggest hard food was infrequently consumed, and therefore the heavy build of the skull was only relevant when eating less desirable fallback foods. Such a strategy is similar to that used by modern gorillas, which can sustain themselves entirely on lower quality fallback foods such as leaves, stems, roots, vines, and grasses all year round. They likely also commonly cracked foods such as seeds or nuts, as it had a moderate tooth chipping rate of 12% in a sample of 239 individuals, as opposed to little to none for the related Paranthropus boisei. Some individuals also had high cavity rates, which could indicate honey consumption. Robustus contended with saber-toothed cats, leopards, and hyenas on the mixed, open-to-close landscape, and Robustus bones probably accumulated in caves due to big cat predation. Robustus may have gone extinct in the mid-Pleistocene transition, characterized by the continual prolonging of dry cycles and subsequent retreat of such habitat. On the island of Flores, 1 million-year-old stone artifacts have been uncovered, suggesting that an unknown hominin, possibly Homo erectus or an early archaic hominin, managed to reach this remote island over 1 million years ago. The tools found were part of the Oldowan-style technology, made up of knife-like flakes and cobble cores that could be used for heavy chopping. Because of the deep neighboring Lambuk Strait, Flores remained an isolated island during episodes of low sea level. Therefore, the ancestors of Floresiensis could only have reached the island by oceanic dispersal, most likely by rafting. Two hypotheses have been proposed as to the origin of Homo floresiensis. The first proposes that floresiensis descended from an early migration of very primitive, small Australopithecus or Homo habilis grade archaic humans outside of Africa prior to 1.75 million years ago. This is based on various aspects of floresiensis' skeletal anatomy, such as its foot bones being considered as more similar to those of very archaic humans, such as Australopithecus and Homo habilis, than to Homo erectus. Other authors have argued that floresiensis instead likely represents the descendants of a population of Javanese Homo erectus that became isolated on Flores, with the small body size being the result of island dwarfism, a well-known evolutionary trend found among various island animals. These authors alternatively suggest that Homo floresiensis has several cranial and dental similarities to Homo erectus, particularly to early Javanese Homo erectus. Regardless of their exact lineage, these early humans were highly intelligent, capable toolmakers who adapted to a wide range of environments. Their journey from Africa to the southeast of Asia, eventually reaching the island of Flores, whether it was by intentional seafaring or perhaps by drifting on vegetation after a storm, suggests a remarkable ability to navigate both land and sea. If intentional, this incredible feat points to the possibility of an ancient, 1-million-year-old seafaring culture with the skills and resilience needed to explore new horizons. 1 million years ago, the global population of human ancestors was extremely sparse compared to today. There are no exact figures, but estimates suggest that the total population of early humans and hominins, such as Homo erectus and Homo Antecessor, and possibly more yet to be discovered, may have only been in the tens of thousands to a few 100,000, spread across Africa, Europe, and parts of Asia. The Oxford academic puts the number of humans on the planet 1 million years ago at just 55,000. These groups lived in small, scattered populations, primarily organized in small bands of hunter-gatherers. These early humans hadn't yet developed the knowledge or resources to build elaborate cities with advanced housing or water systems like us lucky humans today. Instead, they occupied natural, favorable regions close to essential water sources, food, and shelter. But vast areas of the world still remained uninhabited by humans. Human density at this time was likely less than 1 person per square kilometer in occupied regions, with entire continents, such as the Americas and Australia, still uninhabited by humans at all. As we look back at life 1 million years ago, it's clear that our ancestors faced incredible challenges. They were pioneers, toolmakers, adapting to different environments and sharing the land with fierce predators. Though they lacked the technology and comforts we enjoy today, their resilience and survival instincts laid the foundation for who we are now. Today, we live in a world of cities, technology, and modern conveniences, but at our core, we still share the same basic instincts with our ancient ancestors: curiosity, creativity, the drive to explore and survive, and love for their family and friends. The story of human evolution is ongoing, and while we've come a long way, we continue to adapt and innovate, just as they did.